if you want to do some more studying on your own sometime, this book is Tell Me the Story of Jesus. Roger Souse, S. House. These Jumpstart articles that should be sent out sometime on the email list. Roger's the one that writes all of those. Older preacher. And this is a full color book on the life of Christ that he wrote that's put out by the congregation where he's there. If you want it, all you got to do is email him and ask him for a copy and they'll send it to you. So if you have any interest, I'll send an email. If somebody wants a copy or something, let me know. And I'll send an email to Roger and ask him to send me after the copies, whatever you think you might want. So just let me know about that one. This other one here is probably have to buy this one. This is Philip Owens, used to preach at Jackson Drive. This is 2 volumes. This is the second volume. It's mainly a fill in the blank, answer the question type workbook. But as he says, it's notes, outlines, and questions on the life of Christ. So he's got a lot of notes stuck into it. I found a piece to read you a piece of one of them right now. But it's a book that Philip wrote that I haven't gotten a lot out of it this quarter because I don't go through and fill in the blanks, but I have skimmed a few notes out of it as we're going through the quarter here. So anyhow, make you aware of those. We'll pick up and make one more point. Remember that, I think it was the end of class Wednesday night that I showed you the video of Jericho and in and out, and I explained the one time they're coming to Jericho with the healing, and the next time they're leaving Jericho because they are. Philip offers 2 or 3 other explanations as to how that might have worked. I just want to share another one with you just so you know there are more than one possible explanations. And this is what he says seems most reasonable to him. So I'll put that out there. He said Luke's account indicates that the blind beggars heard a multitude going by and inquired as to what it meant. That's in Luke 1936 or 1836. 1936. Further, Matthew's account indicates a great multitude followed Jesus. Therefore, it seems that Jesus was ahead of the crowd and that following him as he entered the eastern gate of the city of Jericho. So keep in mind, there's a lot of people going up to the Passover feast now at this time. So it's a big crowds coming. They would come down the eastern side of the Jordan and cross the Jordan and come to Jericho. So a big crowd followed behind Jesus. So as they came in, he says they're going to go into Jericho in the eastern gate of the city of Jericho. So that's kind of keep that in mind. Let's see. Therefore, it seems that Jesus was ahead of the crowd that followed him as he entered the eastern gate of the city. He passed by the blind men without them knowing at the first. But when they heard the tumult, maybe the crowd, they asked what it was about, and they learned that Jesus had passed by. So as they go in the eastern gate, Jesus had already gone through. The crowd tells them what's going on. Knowing that the crowds were on their way to Jerusalem for the Passover, and not knowing how long Jesus would be in Jericho, they, the blind men, likely passed around the wall until they came to the southern gate by which Jesus would exit to go to Jerusalem, and positioned themselves at that point. They waited patiently. They persistently cried to Jesus when he come by. So he's got the blind men seeing Jesus. Well, got the blind men knowing of Jesus, they didn't see him. As he came in the eastern gate, and they ran around the city and caught him as he's coming out of the city. There's a possibility there. And he goes on to think that what we're about to read with Zacchaeus occurred while he was in Jericho. Therefore, would give them plenty of time to have gone around the outside wall and positioned himself at the southern gate. So you get the coming in and they're going out, both. So it's just a different explanation as to how it could have happened, in addition to the one that was in the little video the other day. So share that with you for whatever it's worth, was thinking about. Okay, copyright pictures. Assignment for Wednesday night. Had a pair. So went through it with you Wednesday night. Wednesday night is an extra class. We got pitched in. We got 23 this quarter instead of 22. So what we don't get through with today, I'll tack in then. But if you would do this, I've got one in already. So give me some application from last quarter stuck into your mind. Email it to me, or if you want to, or just have it. We'll talk through it when we get there. All right. Speaking of approaching Jericho, that's where we are. Jesus has come down through Perea, east side of Jordan, crossed over into Jericho, and that's where we pick up. And of course, the other night we had the explanation of the residential city versus the business center, and him being between the two with the blind man. So they're about to come out in a minute and go up through to on the way to Jerusalem. So we got this story of the blind man. It's in 3 of the Gospels, and it's kind of a little bit different. One of them said there's 2 men. One says 1 man, named one man. They're coming into Jericho. They're going out of Jericho. There's little differences between them here. Mark names one of them, Bartimaeus there. And they're crying out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us. So it seems Jesus has already passed by, and then they are crying out to him. So he stops and says, bring him to me. Bring him over here to me there. And then he asks them, as if he didn't already know, of course. They're blind men. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? And they said, open our eyes. If we want to see, we know from what we've heard that you've healed blind people before, done miracles. So we want to see. Open our eyes. So Jesus healed him. So he had compassion on him and he healed him there. Your faith is what did it for you there. And God was glorified and praised as he healed these blind men. So not a long story there with that, but then. So if they come out of Jericho, then they would have gone, this is the old Roman road there. And while they're in Jericho, before I get them out of town, this is a sycamore tree in Jericho. And then here's another one. And think about Zacchaeus now, that's where we're going. And here's Zacchaeus set up here and the sycamore tree. Not really Zacchaeus, but it's a man set up there in the sycamore tree. Okay, big tree. Something I read said it's easy to climb. Big branches come near the ground, so you can get hold of it and climb up and things like this. So let's talk about Zacchaeus a minute. Now, this says he was passing through Jericho when he saw Zacchaeus. Now, so we got a lot of options here. When he came into the city, this is Luke 19, by the way. Came into the city and was actually going through the city, it's like in the eastern gate and out the southern gate. Or was it going from one Jericho into the other? Now he's in that one. I don't know. I pitch the options out there for you to think about with that. But he wanted to see Jesus. He's a chief tax collector, which would carry a very negative connotation with it as far as the Jews are concerned, not just a tax collector. He's the chief. Maybe you got some other tax collectors under him or something. I don't know for sure what was involved in that. But he wants to see Jesus. So short man climbs up in the tree. Everybody knows the kids' songs that goes along with this. So Jesus comes in and sees him and says, Zacchaeus, like the song says, come down. I'm going to your house. I'm going to your house to eat tonight. So Zacchaeus comes down hurriedly and said, received him joyfully. Picture of a house meal going on, that thing, a model that I found there. So the crowds reacted by saying, Jesus, who claims to be the Son of God, the Messiah, is going to eat with a sinner. Why would he be associating with a sinner? Particularly a chief tax collector type sinner. Bad, bad, bad. But Zacchaeus stood there and said, I take half my goods and give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone that they've collected of taxes, I will pay them back 4 times as much. Now, Zacchaeus was rich. That point's made in the text. He was a rich man. Get rich from collecting taxes? I don't know. But he was a rich man. But he's going to give half of what he has to the poor and repay anyone he has defrauded 4-fold. And Jesus said, salvation has come to this house. He too is the son of Abraham because of this thing. So, Jesus said he came to seek and save the lost. Here's my question. What was the difference in rich Zacchaeus and the attitude toward his riches versus what we had last time with the rich young ruler and his riches? What's the difference?
Rich young ruler was sad when away he didn't want to do it. Zacchaeus offered up his half and fixed the wrong.
Where's it all come down to? What's his heart? Okay. I mean, the rich young ruler made his God, little g, his riches. He chose that as opposed to following Jesus. But Jesus said, give your riches away and come follow me. He chose his riches rather than God. What did Zacchaeus do? He said, he's out to see Jesus, tries to, and then realizes he needs to show repentance. And so he freely offers to give half of his to the poor. Nothing said Jesus asked him for it. Told him you need to do something different. He just freely gave, seems like. So big difference in the attitude here between what we just studied and Zacchaeus here. Both rich, but both their attitude toward their riches. Okay. Now, the next one starts out in verse 11 and says, Jesus is near Jerusalem. It's kind of interesting. I don't know the exact transition here. It says, now as they heard these things, that would be the Zacchaeus thing we just talked about, he spoke another parable because he was near to Jerusalem. Now, I take that he's in Jericho, where he just spoke these things. It says there to transition into verse 11. So it's near Jerusalem means that he is in Jericho, and that's near Jerusalem. It's supposed to be in really near Jerusalem type thing, Bethany or something like that. But it points out he's near Jerusalem. So, but it is tied in closely in this verse with that other. So either he has climbed or is about to climb the ascent from Jericho up to Jerusalem, and we've watched the video and seen that this quarter, that challenging climb up the ascent there. So he tells this parable here of the pounds and this is menials or minios. I've looked at it and found it pronounced both ways with a long I or short I type thing. He tells this because some of the disciples thought the kingdom was about to appear. Whereas he's about to do this coronation ride on the donkey into Jerusalem, right? That's what's coming up next part of this chapter. We're going to break the quarter here. We'll get into it this quarter, it'll be next quarter. But that's how close he is to that. So they think the kingdom now is about to be set up. So he tells this parable, and it's very similar to the parable of the talents, which we're familiar with. Yet it's different. It's comparisons here. One spoken in Jerusalem, talents is on the left, the pounds, the one we're having now, is on the right. So in Jericho, who was talking to? The one involves only the servants that he gave the talents to. The other one has the hostile citizens, which is a key part of this parable here. 3 servants versus 10 servants. Gave them large amount of money. Each one of them got a small amount of money, got different amounts of money. Here they all got the same. They all got 1 pound. The servants doubled the money there. And in this case, they didn't. So it's a different thing there. And there's nothing about rejecting the Lord. Here there was a big rejection of the nobleman. So even though they're similar type parables, yet they're different in several aspects here between these two. So the noble is going away to receive a kingdom. That's one of the key parts here. Going away to receive a kingdom. And this is, think about Jesus going back to heaven. Back to heaven, be with God there at his right hand. So he gives 10 of his servants, calls 10 of them together, and gives each one of them a pound. Now, this pound is equal to about 3 months' wages. It's not a large sum of money, but it's quite a bit, something that they can deal with here. He tells them to take this and to invest it, make money with it while I'm gone. And he's going to use that, how they handle that then, to gauge their ability to manage bigger things. Okay. Big key point. The subjects of the kingdom did not want him to be over them. Who do you think that might be? Like chief priests, Pharisees, those people there. That's who's represented in the parable with this. So now, at his return, he comes back. And one of the servants had taken his pound and got 10 more. He had done very, very well. So his reward was, if you've done well with little things, give him 10 cities to reign over. Another one had come back and he had gained 5 with his pound. So give him 5 cities. So they were both praised, rewarded for what they had done. Then we come to this guy. Very similar in this fashion to the parable of the talents. He said he was afraid, and so he went and wrapped this pound into a cloth, and he buried it in the ground. He hid his master's money. And he was rebuked for not at least putting it in the bank and that he earned interest. You wouldn't have to do anything except go to the bank and put it there, and then it was still gotten something positive for the master back. But he didn't do that. Okay? He hid it. Jesus says, let's leave those men there just hanging this minute there and come back to this. This is the ones who didn't want him to be a servant. Look what he says to them. Bring here those enemies of mine who do not want me to reign over them, and slay them before me. Representing the Pharisees, chief priests, those who have rejected Jesus and his teaching. Slay them before me. Judgment, harsh. Slay them in front of me. And the word slay there actually comes back, kill them off. It's actually looking at human slaughter. The context of the word slay there. Judgment is passed on these who do not want Christ to be their king and rule over them. So this is what I want to talk about for a few minutes. The guy who got 10 talents, or got 10 pounds back from his, he took what he had and he put it to work. He went to work with it. One had 5, did the same thing. He didn't gain as much, but he used his ability to get that. What about this one who did nothing, but went, hid his money, master's money in the ground? What was expected of him? He was expected to gain something. Maybe not as much as the others, but he was expected to get something for the master. To use the master's abilities, the pound he gave him, to gain something. And he was punished, what's he called? The term? A what? A wicked servant or a wicked slave. So, bad. Really bad. When we get this concept in our mind, really how bad this was. Doing less than what was expected is wicked. Okay? Now, think about something a minute. So here's our pound that was given. We'll start off for a minute. And one guy, of course, gained 10, right? One guy gained 5. But here's this one guy who did this. I told 2 nurses this morning, I don't pick on them. Okay, you got a patient. The heart monitor shows that. What you got? He's dead, okay? He's dead. How's that apply to this? This man's dead. Spiritually, he's dead. He's a wicked servant. I don't know if that applies to anybody in here, but maybe it's applied to anybody we got in the congregation here. I don't know. But somebody is not gaining more for the master. They're dead. I'm dead. That makes sense? Everybody catch on what we're talking about here? One word is called the status quo. Okay? I'm just sitting here maintaining what I got. Won't work. Won't work. I've seen this illustrated before with Grandpa and his rocking chair. Grandpa lost his fingers behind his head, and he rocks all day, okay? When at the end of the day, how far has he gone? Nope, right where he started. Gaining nothing. So, maintain the status quo. This won't work for any of us. Any of us. We've got to be gaining something. Now, let me read this first, and I'll get that. This one little paragraph out of an article that kind of ties into this. Some of this is answered by my actions, and you got to know the first part of there for that sentence. But he says, "Do I even bring a Bible to worship? Do I bring things to write something down on? Do I take what I've learned and keep it so I can go back and go over it again? When I miss a Bible class, I try to find out what I missed. If my actions in worship were used by a child in school, will they be learning? Will they be flunking out? Why is it some have been Christians for decades and still do not seem to know the simplest concepts about the Bible? Could be they never learned from the teacher, capital T here, that's what the article is about, was Jesus the teacher. And the people, not us if we're not learning. I just happened to run across this paragraph last night. It tied right in with what we're talking about here. If we're not learning from the teacher, and the point he made earlier in this article is, if you look at the names by which Jesus addressed in the Gospels, you got Lord, you got Christ, you got Messiah. You know what's the most time he's addressed as? Teacher. Okay? Teacher. That's what he came for, to teach. For us to learn. If we're not learning, here we are. We're flatlined. Now, I'm going to change the other side of the fence a minute. I don't know if Jennifer's ever seen a flatline in her recovery stuff she's done there. But what do? What's the first thing you do? You got a code blue and you ask for the crash cart, right? Why? What are you going to try to do? Do something about this red line, right? You don't want a red line, okay? That's one for it. No, more right up. I know Cheryl's talked about in the ER when she worked there, being on top of somebody in the ER, pumping their chest with CPR. You don't want somebody to die. Let's relate that to us. If we know someone that we think fits this flat line up here, what should we be doing? Maybe you get the crash cart and bring it in, right? Okay? Now, what does it say in Galatians 6? Someone's in sin, you are spiritual, restore such a one. Do we only think about this person being in sin? No, he's here at every service. I mean, every time the door's open, he's here. Sitting in the class, sitting in the auditorium, sitting in the lesson. But you ask him a question, and I'm not putting this on anybody we got here. I'm just. But we got somebody that's not learning, that is sitting there, treading water. What did Jesus call this man? A wicked servant. So we didn't get the crash cart. We didn't go get this man and help him. He's flatlined, okay? So I'm trying to look at it from two different angles here. The person, if we're one of these people, we need to do something about it. But if we got somebody we think is in this thing here, then we're the nurse, okay? We got to call the crash cart. Now, surely I got a thought from somebody going with all this. Comment?
And the New American Standard uses the word worthless.
Worthless, yeah.
Instead of wicked.
Yeah.
So here's a person that probably has value, but there's no value being seen and being done. And might even be the smartest person in the room that just out of fear, for whatever reason, will not put any of that into practice.
Yep. Now step
Not
out.
always lack of knowledge.
Step out and grow, right? Yeah. Yeah. Do. We talked about that last time. I didn't come to be served, but to serve. I need to get up and do something, okay, with that. All right, anybody else on some of this? Yes, ma'am.
We can look at it as an individual level, but Revelation 3, we look at the church of Sardis. And Christ is talking about you're a whole church that looks like you're alive, but you're actually dead. You have flatlined, but nobody knows it.
Yep.
So even as a congregation, we can become so content with where we think we are that we kill ourselves.
Yep.
So it's an interesting way that, we have the individual, but we also have the institutional level as well.
How many churches do you know are sitting right here? Been just like this for years. Not individually, but the church as a whole is just sitting there, not just hanging on, barely hanging on. Good point. Okay, let's get past Grandpa. All right, we got a few minutes left now. Let's shift gears. This is what I meant to do this class. I had that catch up to do. So now you have a hard time staying awake because you got nothing to do except watch the screen. Okay. I'll go through some prophecies from the Old Testament that have been fulfilled already in Jesus' life. We won't get into any prophecies. This deals with the last week, the death, burial, resurrection, things there. Let's just run through some of these and if we don't finish them, I got 50 something of them here, I think. We'll look at some more of them Wednesday night, along with that stuff you're getting ready for Wednesday night, okay? No. So, Old Testament, all the way back to Genesis 3, verses 14 and 15. It was prophesied that Christ would crush the head of Satan. So the early prophecies we have. And then New Testament, not necessarily the gospel. Some of these mean the gospel, some won't be. Said in Hebrews 2:14, that he came to break the power of the devil. 1 John 3, he destroyed the works of the devil when he came. Okay. And of course, we tie that part of that back to his death, which is not, like I said, not in this part here. So that Genesis 18, it's all going back to Genesis 12, promises to Abraham, repeated to Isaac and to Jacob, that all nations on the earth be blessed through Abraham, in this case here. See that same exact wording almost used in reference to Abraham in Acts 3:25 and 26. All the people of the earth be blessed. His servant Jesus came to bless you. So, and while I'm stopping thinking about it here, pictures, if you're teaching next quarter, either pictures, I may have said this off, I did or not, I meant to several times. The pictures I've used during the quarter here, they're all available up here on these PowerPoints. And as long as they stay within the congregation, copyright problems are solved. There are no copyright issues as long as we use them here. So if you're teaching next time, want to use any of them, any of this stuff here, whatever, you're welcome to it. I get copies of this stuff. Okay, Old Testament, we use this verse, Micah 5:2, a couple of times here. His origin was from old. We don't usually look at this verse from this. We'll look at it for the Bethlehem part, which we will in a minute. But his origins were from old, from ancient times. The person who would come and be born in Bethlehem, from old, from ancient times. Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. I was there, and I always will be, but I was there before Abraham. All things he created through him. He is before all things. This is there. Born of a virgin, Isaiah 7, virgin conceived and gave birth to a son. Okay. And fulfilled, Matthew 1, Mary was pledged to Joseph. Before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. And Luke 1, a virgin pledged to be married to a man, Joseph. So to be born of a virgin. And then that's what it was when it's fulfilled in the New Testament. Isaiah 9, for us a child is born. And then we have the Savior has been born from Luke 2 as a child there. Old Testament, go back to Micah 5:2 again, this time for the Bethlehem part of it. We went in Bethlehem of Judah, one who would be a ruler over Israel. And then when Herod was involved, the wise men came, where they found he was going to be born, would be in Bethlehem in Judah. Okay, as it was written in the prophet, by the way. Firstborn male will be concentrated to him. Goes back to Numbers 8, So I'll take the firstborn male and set them apart for me, dedicated to the Lord. And Mary had her firstborn son. Then they went to the temple when he was 40 days old for the consecration ceremony that was there. Kings will bring him a present, Psalm 72, present him gifts, will bow down to him, kings. And of course, the wise men or the magi coming from the east bowed down to him and gave him gifts. Old Testament prophecy fulfilled. He would reign on David's throne, Isaiah 9. Also, 2 Samuel 7 would tie into this one very, very well. Very first time we pointed this out several times. The very first verse of Matthew chapter 1 points out Jesus, the son of David, even more so than the son of Abraham, which he also is in there, but the son of David is pointed out there. And then Acts 13, from this man that is David's descendants, Savior Jesus. When tribe of Judah, go back to Genesis 49, when Jacob is blessing each one of his sons, and it comes to Judah there, that the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet. Okay. So in the genealogy of Jesus, in Matthew chapter 1, it ties him into a descendant of Judah. So who he would be. God said, Abraham, in Genesis 17, I'll establish my covenant, everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants. And then genealogy there also includes David is the son of Abraham, your descendants. Here to Isaac, it said, through your offspring, all the nations of the earth will be blessed, repeating the same promise he had made, of course, to Abraham, just a repetition of that. And then Isaac is also in that lineage there, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Isaac is listed in that same Matthew chapter 1 genealogy. Number 24, a star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will come out of Israel, and then Jesus, who's called the Messiah, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all in that genealogy there. He'll reign over Jacob's descendants from Luke chapter 1. He'd be a rod or a shoot coming out of the stump of Jesse, which means he's going to be a descendant of Jesse, and we're going to find Jesse also in that lineage in Matthew chapter 1. And reference again in Acts 11. David, the son of Jesse. This man, descendants God brought forth to Israel, Savior Jesus. And we got the weeping, Rachel weeping for her children from Jeremiah 31. And of course, that happened when Herod killed the baby boys and around Bethlehem. Reference back to that same thing. Out of Egypt, I've called my son, from Hosea chapter 11. And then after killing the babies, Jesus went down to Egypt. And that very thing is referenced, that prophecy is referenced in Matthew chapter 2, as he called him back out of Egypt there. So that's kind of with the birth, the early part there. Moving on. Zechariah 2, I am coming, I will live among you, declares the Lord. And what Jesus did, Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Revelation 21, God's dwelling in a place among his people. So Christ coming to dwell among us, prophecy. Speaking of John, a voice of one called in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, Isaiah chapter 40. And then Luke 3, we get that same reference to that. Speaking of John, I'll send my messenger, prepare the way before me, Malachi chapter 3, and reference in Luke chapter 7. The exact prophecy there with John again. I'll send you the prophet Elijah, Malachi chapter 4. And John is referenced with that, Elijah who was to come. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, Isaiah 11. And we stand at his baptism then. The Spirit descended down as a dove and remained on him in bodily form, like a dove. Luke 3. The anointing with the oil of joy from Psalms 45. And some of these are more familiar than others, I'll grant you. And God anointed Jesus in Nazareth, talked about Acts chapter 10 and the sermon that's given there. Prophet like Moses. Moses, I'll raise up a prophet like myself for you, okay, among your fellow Israelites. And then Acts 3, that's referenced. God raised up a prophet like me from among your own people. Moses, lawgiver. Isaiah 55, you will summon nations you know not. And speaking, of course, there to the Gentiles. And then Romans 9, among other places, you also call not from the Jews also, but from the Gentiles. We even see some of that in the Gospels, what we study here there. This is what we've had in our class already. You'll be in the land of Naphtali, in the land of Zebulun, around Galilee. And this is Matthew chapter 4. I guess Brad had that last quarter probably, where he's in Capernaum, near Zebulun and Naphtali. We talked about that last quarter. I'll restore David's fallen shelter. I'll repair broken walls, Amos 9. And reference in Acts 15. Some of these, like I said, are not as familiar to us at all. Isaiah 42, a covenant for the people, a light for the Gentiles. Luke chapter 2, almost the same words, light for the Gentiles, and the glory of the people of Israel. All I'm trying to do is just get us to see these things, and how many of them, I'll be faith building to all of us to see these prophecies fulfilled here. And if you're a teacher, you've got some about prophecies and coming up in your books that, well, some of them are ready for Justin to give out. I haven't got all of them printed yet. So, the government be on his shoulders, Isaiah chapter 9, referencing 1 Corinthians 15, and also in Matthew 28, he said, all authority is given to me. He has all authority of the government on his shoulders. Isaiah 60, arise, your light has come. Darkness covers the earth. Nations will come to the light. John 12, Jesus came and said, he is the light. I am the light of the world. One of the I ams from John we looked at. Isaiah 35, the deaf will hear, the blind will see, the eyes be opened. And then when John sent his disciples to go ask Jesus who he really was, he said, go back and tell them that the blind see, the lame walk. Various miracles that he was doing there, deaf ear. So tied it back to that prophecy there. Psalm 72, he would deliver the needy, take pity on the weak, the needy, save the needy from death, and rescue them from oppression. And one of the things that on that report back to John at the end of it was that the poor have the gospel preached to them. So. Isaiah 40, he will tend his flock like a shepherd. Of course, this is going to be tied in multiple times in the New Testament there. I am the good shepherd, John chapter 10, referencing Jesus. Isaiah 35 again, the ears of the blind be opened, the ears of the deaf be unstopped. Miracles. Isaiah 11, same verse we used a minute ago, maybe Matthew 11, blind receive your sight, etc. Come to the order of Melchizedek, your priest forever. From the order of Melchizedek, Psalm 110. That's again in Hebrews 5. Priest forever from the order of Melchizedek. Isaiah 42 calls him my servant. Isaiah 42. Then Matthew 12. He quotes that very thing. Here is my servant whom I have chosen. So direct reference back to that prophecy in Isaiah. Redeemer will come to Zion, Isaiah 59. And Romans 11, deliverer will come from Zion, as it is written, again, referring back to the prophecy. The parable I will utter out of hidden things. Jesus spoke a lot of parables, so we go back to a lot of places that he used that one there. I will utter hidden things, Matthew 13. Isaiah 61, proclaim freedom from the captives, release from darkness the prisoners. That's in Luke chapter 4. It's written again. How many times you see here, it is written, it is written, it is written, it is written, referring back to these prophecies. The word is written. Turn my friendship, they have accused me, but I'm a man of prayer. Pray for those that persecute you, he said in Matthew 5. Father, forgive them, Luke 23. and people's hearts will be callous. And we'll stop with this one. He said, make the heart of this people callous. Isaiah 69. Isaiah 6, verse 9, excuse me. And this heart will become callous in Matthew 13. So we got a few more of these. That's 40. I've done me 10 more of them. So I need a lot of stuff from you to talk about in class Wednesday night, or it's going to be a long session. So don't forget the assignment, please.